Welcome again to Father Paul's Talk. We'll begin, as we usually do, with a reading from the Gospel. And today's Gospel is taken from St. Mark's Gospel, chapter 4. Jesus said, "What can we compare the kingdom of God? Or what parable will we use for it? It is like a mustard seed, which when sown upon the ground is the smallest of all the seeds on earth. Yet, when it is sown, it grows up and becomes the greatest of all trees, and puts forth large branches, so that the birds of the air can make their nest in its shade." With many such parables, he spoke the word to them, as they were able to hear it. Amen. So we have this famous parable. And the story is about this amazing tree that grows up. It's almost as the way Jesus speaks about it. It's almost miraculous. And Jesus talks about it coming from the smallest of seeds, the mustard seed. In Jesus' time, particularly in the Galilee, the mustard seed was in fact the smallest seed that you could ever find. And people did use mustard in the seeds to grind or make into an oil. But really, it wasn't so much a tree. It was really a really big shrub. But significantly so, maybe 4 or 5 feet high. And it must have been a really strong shrub, because Jesus talks about the way in which it's so strong that the birds of the air come and not simply fly into the tree, but make their nests, make their homes in it. You know, for a bird to make their nest in the tree must be strong to be a place of security for the nest. Jesus, in many ways and often in the Gospels, speaks about the kingdom of God, and he speaks about the kingdom of God often to the people through parables. One of the things that Jesus says is that the kingdom of God comes near to you, and the kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. So in this parable, Jesus is saying that the mustard seed, the kingdom of God, is like a seed that's planted within your hearts. And then within your hearts, within your life, it grows into a most amazing tree. The kingdom of God grows in your heart, in your life, like an amazing tree. So strong. But it starts with the smallest of things, like the mustard seed. And I guess one of the questions we need to ask ourselves is this: when we look within our own life, when we look within our own hearts, do we see the kingdom of God within our own hearts? Do we see the kingdom of God growing in our own hearts? Do we see the kingdom of God as this amazing tree? Or not? And where in our hearts is the desire, the passion, and the energy to, as it were, nurture and to water this seed, this tree of the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven within us? Or we can say, how much is there this desire in us to allow the kingdom of God, like this tree within us, to work in our life, the kingdom of God to work through our life, so as to transform the earth to be like heaven, through bringing goodness and justice and fellowship. It's an amazing thing to be encouraged and to recognize that this little of smallest of seeds that was, as it were, planted in the ground in an obscure place like Palestine, the Galilee, has grown and is growing to be this amazing tree that fills the whole earth with the kingdom of heaven. But not simply the whole earth, but the whole universe. From this one seed, the kingdom of God, as it were, consumes the whole of the universe and beyond, this tree of the kingdom of God. You know, Jesus speaks of the mustard seed in other ways as well. Maybe you remember that Jesus said to his disciples, his friends, that's you and me, he said, if you have faith as much as a mustard seed, the smallest of seeds, you will be able to say, and you will say to this mountain, it will move, and it will move. Faith is enough, this little mustard seed, to build this amazing tree within us and to move mountains. Or again, Jesus spoke about the kingdom of God through his actions when, similarly, a bit like the mustard seed, Jesus took a couple of fish and a piece of bread, and through this little something, you feel like this little seed of nothing, this piece of bread and piece of fish, he fed 5,000 people and more. Just this little something. And something small that feeds so many. And so I say to you again that the message for today is this question. Is the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, growing in your hearts like this amazing tree? Are you able to recognize that? And are you helping it to grow through your desire and your passion to see the kingdom of God grow in your life and in the world? And also, it is just taking the little seed, the little gift that God gives us and putting it to good use that makes us his disciples, that in fact transforms the world as we seek together to build the kingdom of God. In other words, are we like the workman that Jesus talks about, the one who is given something and then goes out and makes more of it for the kingdom of God? In other words, to grow the tree in the heart. Or are we the person who, as it were, receives the faith, receives the kingdom of God, this mustard seed, and rather than encouraging it to grow within us, we bury it. And we look forward to the day when Jesus returns and we say to him, here, Jesus, I return this seed. I return this faith you've given me. It's just as you've given me now. Which of those people do we want to be? The kingdom of God that grows into this amazing tree, almost by itself, within our hearts, needs our encouragement, and it needs to be nurtured and watered through the passions and desires of our hearts to build the kingdom of God with each other and with God as his disciples. Look within yourself. What do you see? What is growing within you? What is growing in each other? And how can we make the kingdom of God grow in us and help each other? Amen.